I fasted the entire week before Thanksgiving, and I learned a few things doing it. Hello and welcome back to the Salt of the Earth, where I try to encourage myself and you to be just a little bit more like Christ. Now, you're probably asking yourself why in the world someone would choose to fast before Thanksgiving, and that's a perfectly fair thing to wonder. So I'm going to take a few moments to explain that before I get into talking about what I learned during the fast. The weeks leading up into Thanksgiving, I had been doing a lot of thinking about thankfulness and what it meant to be grateful and what the proper way to celebrate Thanksgiving was, because I recognized that the way I celebrated it, the way that my family celebrated it, the way a lot of other people I've seen celebrate it, even though it's this holiday dedicated to and centered around being thankful and grateful for what we've been given, I recognize that for a lot of people it was also one of the greediest times of the year. I mean, you pig out on turkey and mashed potatoes and pie while browsing Black Friday catalogs, planning all the stuff that you're going to buy, and it just seemed that, at least for me, a lot of times I wasn't quite celebrating it in the right attitude. I didn't like that. I saw that in myself, and I'm like, okay, I want to go into this Thanksgiving with the right attitude. I want to be truly thankful. I just want to have joy for what I've been given. And so those thoughts were on my mind the weeks going into Thanksgiving. And as I got closer, I started joking around the idea of, well, why don't I just fast the weeks before Thanksgiving? That'll make me really thankful, right? And it was kind of a joke. I mean, I had been curious about fasting before. I'd never done it, but I'd been curious. I wanted to try it. So the Thursday before Thanksgiving, Thursday night, a Christian group that me and Mara are associated with, they were having a Thanksgiving celebration that night. And during the meal, sitting there with a table of Japanese international students, I'm just like, I think I'm not going to eat for another week. It was kind of a strange thought, but it seemed so natural. It was like, I'd been joking about it for days, and then I was like, why not? I want to be thankful. I want to do this right. I want to be truly grateful with what I've been given. And so I finished one Thanksgiving with the idea in my mind that I would not eat again until the actual Thanksgiving. I decided to fast so that I could be truly thankful, and I can say that it definitely worked, and that it did even more than that. It went further. Normally, if I would describe myself on like a steady upward slope of like slowly getting over things and slowly living a little bit more like Christ, I would say that the week of my fast, it was a much steeper slope going up. It was like accelerated learning and accelerated improvement. It was a week with a lot of introspection and a lot of realizing why I did the things that I did. And it was amazing. So I'm going to go over a few things that I learned during the week. One of the first things I learned is that it is a lot easier to focus on the needs of others when you're not focusing on your own needs. So there were some times when I would be sitting at the table and I would be passing things, I would be serving, and it was a lot easier. It was so much more natural. It wasn't like an effort like, oh, I have nothing to do during this time, let me look for something to do. It was just, I'm going to do it. Like, it was so easy to focus on the needs of others when eating, which is like the basic human need, when I was just forgetting that. I cooked several meals for people during the week, whether it be breakfast or supper for Mara, or I cooked for some friends when they came over, and it just felt great. It felt really good to be serving when I knew that 100% of that serving was going to other people, and none of it was really coming to me, because I wasn't going to eat any of the food. I got to smell it, and that's it, which, depending on how you look at it, smelling it could be a bad thing. When you stop focusing on yourself, on something about yourself, I found that joy became a lot easier. Because this mentality of, okay, now I'm not focusing on myself, and so then I started focusing on other people, and I had a very Christ-centered mindset the entire week, because that's why I was doing this. So the combination of the Christ-centered mindset and serving others, I don't know what it was. I was just very happy that week. Really, the entire week before Thanksgiving, I just felt happy, I felt healthy, I felt alive. Normally I have this feeling of kind of like what you're doing, you're doing it for you. You want to do this thing, so you're doing it. But that week, a lot of what I was doing wasn't for me. So that's another thing I learned. When you don't focus on yourself so much, joy and feeling good about what you're doing is it's natural, I would say. Another thing that I learned is that sometimes in order to fully enjoy and fully be thankful for something that you have to spend some time not having it. You have to go without in order to fully enjoy going with. Over the week, I wasn't eating any food, but I really enjoyed the thought of when Thursday came, I would sit down at the table, I would put a little bit of food on my plate, and I would thank God for it, and I would eat. And I was just amazingly thankful for food, even though I didn't have any. Some other littler things that I learned were that, for instance, it's not actually that awkward to not be eating while other people are eating, which was always this thing that I guess imagined or envisioned about fasting is like, oh man, everyone is gonna like make it super awkward all the time. Like they're gonna be eating and you'll be sitting there and they'll just be like, dead silence the entire meal. And it wasn't really like that actually. I ate with several people and they were pretty cool with it. It really wasn't that awkward. I mean, I kept myself fairly busy, either helping them or just drinking tea or water or something. Some of you may be thinking that it could be awkward to do that. It's actually not, and I guess depending on who's around you, it could be different, but I had some friends and they were just totally chill with it. I even had conversations about food at the table. Another thing I learned is that actually, surprisingly, when you fast, you feel great. Like I felt great most of the week. I was actually super energetic. I had more energy than I normally had. And there was some soreness. Sometimes there'd be shortness of breath or things like that, which was probably just me lacking some nutrient, iron or something. So it wasn't all easy, but as a whole, I felt great. So those are the things I learned, and there's probably a lot of other things that, well, not probably, there is a lot of other things, but I haven't probably done enough thinking on it. I've been kind of busy the past few weeks. I feel like I would struggle quite a lot to properly explain what I was feeling. There were a lot of abstract thoughts and introspection going on during the week. So for the most part, it was really good. It was a great learning and growth experience, but it wasn't all just a cakewalk. It wasn't easy. I was going a week without food, which can be hard. One of the issues I was having is that I craved food a lot. I wasn't hungry, but I craved food. Now, that may sound like a contradiction, but somehow it isn't. Another thing I struggled with during the week was not coming off like I was acting superior and like putting myself on the high ground. There were some moments, especially early on during the week, where it sounded like I was complaining about not being able to eat food a lot, and that's how it sounded. I can say that I wasn't most of the time actually complaining about not having food. It was just me talking about my cravings, which in a very whiny way, which for all intents and purposes, I was kind of complaining. And so I realized that and I didn't like it. I didn't want to be putting on a gloomy face and complaining about this. So I tried to check that. For the most part, I came to the point where I just didn't do too much talking about it. I didn't always mention like, oh, I'm fasting, because I wasn't doing it for a moral high ground, and I didn't want to come off as doing that. I know there were some times when it kind of did come off that way and people mentioned it, and I had to be sure to stop that because that is not what I wanted to be doing. I was doing this to be thankful, not to be prideful. So I had to be careful about that, and I struggled a little bit with that. I think to the passage we visited in the last video, Matthew 6, there are some verses there talking about not being super gloomy when you're fasting. Do not put on a gloomy face like the hypocrites do. And I had that passage on my mind a lot because I did not want to be doing this wrongly. The entire purpose of me doing this was so that I could be more thankful for the holiday and in some way do the holiday better, I guess. So what is the bottom line of all this? And I would say that the bottom line is definitely be thankful and do things with the right attitude. Simply doing things is not the important part. The most important part of being a Christian is not the things we do or celebrations we have to be thankful. The most important part is actually being thankful, is having that attitude, having the mindset of thankfulness. That's far more important than whatever the holiday means. And I say this knowing that there is another holiday coming up, Christmas, and so I guess part of this, the point of this is also encouraging you go into that holiday with the right attitude. Another thing is I would encourage you to try out fasting. I can say that it was a really great experience, and I'm definitely going to try it again at some point. It's not just the doing without food. That is really only the shadow of the full thing. You're spending this time for a reason. You are taking a deeper look at how you function, how you behave, and it doesn't have to be food. I went a week without food. That's maybe a little bit extreme. You don't have to do a whole week. I'd probably encourage you to do less than a week for starting out. It doesn't have to be food. If you give up anything for a good reason and you have the right mindset, good will come of it. So you give up, I don't know, social media for a week or a month, or you give up video games, hobbies, some sugary dessert that you eat all the time. Stop eating chocolate for a week, and you do that for the right reason, good things will come of it. Like I said, you can do it anytime. You can do it with anything. Don't wait till the week before Thanksgiving. I will probably not be doing that again. I'll do it at some other time when nobody cares about food. So yeah, wanted to get this video out. It's like weeks after Thanksgiving, I realize that, but time, right? Time is a major struggle. I have some good ideas that are coming. I've been thinking a lot about attitude. If you haven't been able to notice, I've been thinking a lot about faith. So hopefully we'll get some good things, some good thoughts on those soon. I wanted to say thank you for all of you for watching. I hope that I've been beneficial here. I've inspired some thought, and maybe if you go fasting, maybe that will inspire some even deeper changes, and I hope that it is the case. I do these things to encourage you guys, encourage me, because I've got issues, you've got issues. Actually just been memorizing James, and one of the verses that actually was really potent to me, this is way off topic, but a really potent verse to me was, "For we all stumble in many ways." That describes me. I'm trying to be better. I am trying to live more Christ-like, especially in my attitude. And if you can do that a little bit as well, then praise the Lord. Have a wonderful holiday season if I do not see you again. If I do see you again, still have a wonderful holiday season.